up against, of course, defending his title against the likes of AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, or Jeff Harvey as I like to call him, Kofi Kingston, who of course replaced Mustafa Ali, Randy Orton and Samoa Joe. A match that went 36 minutes and 40 seconds, so it was quite lengthy. I got to see the latter part of this match, Matt, so I can't really say too much of what was going on before. But by all accounts, Matt, a very, very good quality match here, and everyone putting in quite a decent performance. I think what was nice about this match from when I started to watch it almost seemed somewhat, even though I knew it probably would never happen, but it caught me in the moment, Matt, that actually I was starting to get behind Kofi a little bit, and the fans certainly did as well. And strangely enough, even though it was an odd decision to have them two last, it sort of worked out really well, I felt, and really did a lot for Kofi. I mean, you talk about Finn doing nothing. I felt like, yeah, it's a shame he wasn't in the position Kofi got here, because he sort of made the most of it, Matt. But I think that's a lot down to Daniel Bryan as well. He's the type of guy, Matt, who he's from that background. He's from that old background of the indie wrestlers, Matt, and he knows his stuff. What did you make of the entire match, Matt? And of course, Kofi Kingston in particular making it towards the end there, and that little bit of momentum he made.
I enjoyed this one as well. I did watch the whole entire thing, and I liked the sort of promo Brian did as well, just to make sure that anyone in that crowd was still on his side.
Yeah.
Turn him against him before he stepped through.
Yeah.
And he played it well, because he's a smaller guy, and it does take a little bit of believability to explain how he survives from number one till the end. But he wrestled cagey. He tried not to get hit, tried to avoid in a lot, and tried to hide up the top and everything. So they did well on making you dislike him more. But yeah, like you said about Kofi, I mean, who would not get behind that guy? Like I say, 11 years in the company, striving for that big opportunity, and he's finally there now, finally got it. And what a way to continue with that, because he's got there, he's spent all these years working towards it, and as soon as he's got this opportunity, he showed that he belongs there. He showed that he definitely has the amount of talent that anybody else in this match had, and had the ability to actually get the fans on his side.
Yeah.
I'm not kind of sure how this whole kind of story came about, because of course Mustafa Ali was taken out of the match. It does kind of make me wonder how much of this was tailored towards Mustafa Ali, but just how much of a better fit it was for Kofi, because the fans have been with him for a longer journey, like you say, 11 years, and people have always been a fan of him. He's never got any hate from the fans, so he's like a true kind of fairy tale if he could have got his hands on that belt. And it's kind of one of those risks that you wish WWE would take sometimes, because they never used to be shy about it. They used to give a lot of people opportunities and chances, and everyone's got to have their first, haven't they?
Yeah.
Everyone's got to have that one special moment. And as they showed once with Mick Foley, when he first got it, it was a tremendous gamble to take.
Yeah, I mean, I remember once Kofi getting a slight push. He was in a program with Randy Orton once.
About 8 years ago now.
That was a long time ago, and just didn't work out. But yeah, he's someone who's been around. I mean, all three of those New Day guys, they're so talented in their own right as well. That even Xavier Woods, such a talented performer. But when I've always said don't split them up purely because what would they do without each other at the moment, and it's such a good thing to just stay with each other. But of course you can have single runs. I don't know why WWE don't do it more often, but they always think, well, if you're together you have to do everything together. It's a very odd thing, but I think the whole New Day thing is, say what you want. Yeah, it got stale for a little bit, but then it got really good again. So those guys made something out of nothing. I mean, when they were given that with that whole gimmick. They were booed out of the building. They were supposed to be fan favourites. It didn't work for those guys. But instead of just, like most guys, falling on their arse and never getting back up again, they sort of become really good heels to the point where everyone loved them. And that's where they became WrestleMania hosts, and they sell a hell of a lot of merch. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So well done for Kofi on that. What do you give this match, Matt? Because this was high quality as well, from what I saw towards the end, and obviously the emotional investment here. What did you think of the whole thing? Did you always think that Daniel Bryan was coming out of this as the winner?
Yeah, I kind of did, and it was a shame because of the time of year that they put Elimination Chamber on. It still confuses me now about the time of year that this goes on, because this is a match that has 6 participants in it, and you're supposed to believe that the champion has a very slim chance of coming out on top. Yet, usually they do, because we're so close to WrestleMania, and it's so difficult to change your plans when you've had months to build up someone and make them the star for WrestleMania, which is usually what you're coming into at this point. So it's just a terrible time for this to happen. And if this was after WrestleMania, I would have been really believing Kofi had a chance that they could have gone a different direction.
Sure.
But because we know they like to book their top guys for WrestleMania, I did kind of feel like, it spoiled it a little bit for me. But in every way, this is probably equal to the women's one that they had at the start of the show. So I'm going to give it 4.5 as well, because just that emotional investment at the end. Just wish that it was later on in the year.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And in terms of going forward now with Daniel Bryan, Matt, because this, they haven't really made a song and dance about who he's going to go up against at the moment. What is the likely situation here for him to face? Because I know a lot of fans, and there's been a lot on the internet the last 24 hours or before 24 hours, that Kofi should get it, and they're going to put Kofi in that spot. But the likelihood of that happening, Matt, is very slim on my part, even though he did have a good performance. But where do they go, Matt? Because there's not a ton of guys that Daniel Bryan, hasn't already had some sort of... I mean, when you think about Samoa Joe, they're not going to have heel and heel, are they? So what do they do, Matt, with Daniel Bryan going into WrestleMania here?
Oh, well, it's funny you said Joe, because after this match, there's no doubt in my mind that Joe, he's in none of WWE's big plans. He's the kind of guy that, he's good for them to have.
No, he's...
out of the competition's hands, but there's just nothing going for him. I wouldn't blame that guy for walking out when his contract ends, because, he just never seems to win. He's almost taken over, because Bray Wyatt has been absent now for a while, so it's just like he's taken over that spot. A guy who connects with the fans and has a big name, but just ultimately loses every big opportunity he has, and that's a terrible spot to be in. So I do feel for that guy. But going back to the previous question about who Daniel Bryan faces at WrestleMania, I feel like it's a bit of an open book. I feel like they haven't even made their mind up yet. I don't feel like that's written in stone at all. I feel like that can change. And if I were WWE, I would jump on this opportunity, and I would book Kofi in that kind of situation, because who else do we get? AJ Styles, seen that so many times. Jeff Hardy, not the best option, I would say. There's just not that many people on SmackDown right now that are primed for that. A lot of their superstars are of the older kind of variety, and it's almost to the thing now where I believe it might be another multi-man kind of match, just to make it more interesting.
Yeah, it'd be a shame. Of course, no Nakamura, Matt. All this, I didn't even think about him. But what about Rey Mysterio, Matt? I mean, that sort of died down now as well, hasn't it? That sort of ambition of having the dream match between them two.
I mean, that's a shame, because Rey Mysterio is, he's always had a great connection with the fans, tremendous athlete, no doubt he's still got a lot of time left on his clock in that ring. But it's almost like they're using him as a tool to get Andrade over. It just feels like Andrade could be the next US champ rather than heavyweight champ. It's like they're booking people under their potential these days, like with things regarding people like Andrade and Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, bit disappointing in my perspective. I mean, there's guys like Rusev that are around, of course, Nakamura, and all these other wrestlers that you think, but if they're going to do anything now, the problem is there's nothing. There's nobody been on any sort of big momentum. Like if they really were serious about Ray, they would have had him in another match or doing something special to get some sort of belief behind it. So. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is just going to be one of those instances where it's going to come out of nowhere. Did they have plans for Mustafa Ali? Maybe, but I'm kind of doubting it. To be honest with you, if I was WWE, I would take a wild go for a change and go with what the momentum's telling you. And just I'd put Kofi in that position because not only can you have Kofi involved in the feud, you can also have the whole of New Day. And, of course, Daniel Bryan and his new sort of guy who's out there with him all the time now what's his name? I forget his name. Who's the sidekick at the moment for Daniel Bryan? What's his name?
Oh, Rowan.
Rowan, yeah. I mean, you could do stuff with those guys, all of them. And, you can have, Big E involved. But Kofi's going to be the one that goes for it after all this time. Great story to tell. Towards WrestleMania, and it also has a huge significance considering when you think of Daniel Bryan's rise and how that would play into the Kofi sort of rise. So I would do that. I suspect they won't, unfortunately, but like most things, they have that bit of momentum and then you never see it again, and it's just never used. So it's a bit like Finn Balor. We all thought coming out of Royal Rumble it's done him the world of good, but in a lot of ways it hasn't really elevated him any further, has it? So it's one of those things.
It's a terrible shame though. I feel like Kofi has got that in him. I mean, you spoke about that feud he had with Randy Orton. He has this serious side to him. He does have that ability to kick it up to the next level. I'd love to see him cut a promo with the New Day where he just tells them to shut up and just like, all jokes aside, I'm coming for you, Daniel Bryan. I'm coming for that title. I think he could really pull that off well. Yeah. Well,
we'll see. Don't hold your breath, but we'll see. What do you think of the whole show as a show, Matt? What do you think about this? And got another one to come yet? Are there just too many shows before WrestleMania now? I mean, I personally think one's enough in between the Rumble, let alone having two. It just seems like you've got to put more and more content out, and it's just watering down everything else towards WrestleMania for me at the moment. What do you think, Matt? I mean, is it worth having these other? I mean, I don't know what on earth they're going to do at Fastlane at this rate, but is it worth doing at the moment, Matt? Does it sort of spoil it for you, or does it just sort of wait and see?
It does actually, yeah, because like I said, this match that they keep throwing in the Elimination Chamber. I mean, it used to be the fact that the Royal Rumble, that cemented your main event. You knew who you was going to WrestleMania to see the main event. You knew the champion was going to be there, and then you knew the challenger. But now, like I said, they just throw in this Elimination Chamber. There's a possibility of it changing. It could be one of 6 men coming into WrestleMania. There's just too much going on. I know a lot of things did change in the Elimination. It wasn't just a pointless pay-per-view because they actually did set up Finn Balor and the women's tag team champions were crowned and all of that other stuff. But there's just too much room for WWE to change its mind. I feel like they should just make a decision to stick with it. We know that companies like New Japan, they book these kind of events like a year in advance. They know who's going to go through to the main event next year. It's not that difficult, aside from injuries, which they do try their best to avoid, and it can happen. WWE are very careful, and they ban a lot of moves just for the potential of injury. So I do kind of feel like there's just too many pay-per-views. And Fastlane, I feel like that's the most pointless one at all, because I feel like there'll be no title changes there at all.
Yeah. In fact, if there's any time you'll probably see Kofi go for the belt, it'll probably be at that one if he's got any chance at all. But I really doubt it'll be WrestleMania at this point. And like Matt said, it could just be a multi-man one, which will again water down everything, unfortunately. Okay, well, let's talk about other things, Matt. Let's stick with WWE, shall we? Of course, Brock Lesnar. I mean, the situation with the Universal title, Matt, doesn't ever change, does it? Seems like it's the same every year at the moment. But